Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Piracy Show. Originally, I was going to try to squeeze both Q&As for both the Hawk and the Hammerhead into today's episode, but instead of producing one single hour-long episode, I'm going to break them up into two, so here we go with the Hawk. Alright, question 1. Can we swap the holding cell for other equipment? Answer, no. The holding cell in the Hawk is integrated specifically into its design. The Hawk is a small focus ship. In general, modularity in engineering implies a bunch of things, including piping and plumbing, structural, load-bearing, and a bunch of other considerations designed to handle different equipment of varied capabilities. That stuff doesn't come free in terms of weight, cost, or complexity, hence why not every internal space is just automatically modular by nature. So yeah, so I understand what people are kind of looking for. I mean, people asking, oh, can I just put a cargo pod in there perhaps, or can I just put cargo in there, and like a space designed to like restrain a human being wouldn't be the same as a space that you would use for cargo, because even though at face value you think, okay, yeah, it's totally the same thing, the cargo spaces in your ship are designed to kind of hold that cargo in place, so it's not shuffling around or flying around inside your ship while you're flying. And so the restraints that you would use to kind of keep a prisoner there and kind of pull them up inside the ship and possibly provide life support, that sort of thing, wouldn't be the same as a cargo space. So even though maybe you can just throw a couple of crates in there, they might be banging around or bouncing around inside of that pod while you're flying. So I can kind of see that answer. Who knows, possibly with variants in the future they may broaden the things that you can do with a Hawk, but of course that would be a variant like the Shadow Hawk or the Dire Hawk. Those were the two ones that they named in the brochure. So who knows, maybe we'll see when those come out. Alright, question 2. How many total weapons types and sizes is the Hawk supposed to have? The Hawk has 4 size 2 and 2 size 1 weapon hardpoints with 1 small EMP device. That's actually, when I first saw it, I took it as 6 in total size 1s, but 4 size 2s, as you know, I'd later found out, that kind of increases, you know, my attraction towards this ship. That looks a lot better even than the original, and still for $90. That's a heck of a weapons loadout, and you know, we still haven't taken into account the small EMP, which has, I think, some interesting tactical uses. One of the followers of this channel was talking about sweeping in with a Hawk or a similarly equipped, I believe it's a Warlock, which is the Avenger ship with the EMP, and using it to cause someone's ship to crash when they're taking off by EMPing them as they're lifting off of the ground on a planet. And I think that is quite a devious idea and a good idea. It might run into some complications and some issues. It depends on how EMPs are balanced in the future, but definitely something worth exploring, dude. That was a good idea. When I read that, I went, oh shit, that's not a bad idea. But yeah, you know, that is perhaps, I think, one of the best armed ships in Star Citizen. There are some weaknesses to the Hammerhead, but overall, that weapon loadout is pretty damn awesome. Alright, question 3. Is the EMP from the Hawk as strong as the EMP from the Raven? Answer, at present, we expect the EMP on the Hawk to be in the same neighborhood of effectiveness as one of the Ravens. A balance pass is scheduled for 2018, and this information may change. So, in general, they want them to start, I guess, baseline the same, but who knows? I mean, the Raven might, say, have a broader range, but a slower recharge, whereas the Hawk might have a shorter range, but a faster recharge. There's a lot of ways that they can play around with that, even through the ship component system. You could, say, have a capacitor on the Hawk that gives you faster recharge to your EMPs or faster overall recovery from the effects of an EMP, whereas the Raven could be something entirely different. It depends. I mean, there's a lot of ways that they can kind of flesh that out and just say, oh, this has a size 1 EMP, this has a size 1 EMP, therefore they're the same. I mean, there's a lot of ways that that could be different, so we'll have to wait and see. All right, question 4. When will the variants become available that are mentioned in the brochure? Answer: the variants described in the brochure are ships that exist in the fiction of Star Citizen's universe. Currently, there are no plans to implement these variants. Let's see how much you all like the original Hawk for starters. Yeah, that's kind of a crappy answer. I can see that answer ruffling a few feathers. I mean, to be honest, because when I looked at the Hawk looked great, but that Shadow Hawk is very interesting. It's the fact that there was a Hawk where you lost a couple of guns, but you gained stealth and you also gained a data spike. That was very interesting to me. I'd like to see that explored. I think that was a good idea, and that was interesting. Especially, I mean, I'm a person who loves stealth gameplay, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, technically, yeah, they are not obligated. They can just say, oh, this is just something in the lore. We don't have to do it, but then again, to use it and to kind of like tease people with it, I don't know. I mean, they are under no obligation, but if you weren't going to build it, then why even mention it? It's like, oh, just fleshes out the universe. It might give people another reason to buy too. I feel that is, I think it's something that deserves probably a more considered response. But technically, yeah, they are under no obligation to produce them. All right, question 5. Will the Hawk fit inside a Carrack? All right, answer. Considering that both ships are in production at the moment, we do not have the final dimensions of each ship and can't definitely answer this yet. I think we can. That said, it is unlikely that the Carrack's hangar is designed to field a ship the size of a snubcraft. Wait, it is unlikely as the Carrack's hangar is designed to field a ship the size of a snubcraft. Right, so, okay, I misread that, I think. Yeah, the Carrack is only designed to carry that small snub ship. It's not designed to carry a full-sized fighter. The Hawk might not be a big fighter, but it's still a pretty decently sized design, so being able to fit inside of a Carrack, yeah, I don't think so. I think that if you're gambling, if that's kind of your pairing, and you're thinking, oh, it can dock inside, no. I would almost certainly say that is not going to happen. Question 6. The brochure mentions gun rack. Where is it located? Answer. It's behind the deployable pilot seat. No comment. Question 7. It was mentioned in ATV that the prisoner transport pod could be used as a bed for the pilot. Is this the case? Yes, it is possible that the pilot could use this as a bed, although it would probably be a bit claustrophobic. I suppose. Be kind of embarrassing if you somehow locked yourself in there. I mean, with doors and activatables and things like that being kind of sketchy in the Star Citizen universe right now, it'd be kind of funny to turn up at a planet and find a Hawk and hear someone banging from the inside like, let me out. Be a little bit creepy. I suppose with VR, if you are claustrophobic, that could also be a bit of a nightmare too. All right, question 8. How do the defensive features, e.g. shields, armor, countermeasures of the Hawk compare to other light fighters such as the Gladius, the Mustang Delta, and the Defender? All right, answer. Anvil designed the Hawk, so as you'd expect, it's reasonably durable, at least as light fighters go. in this respect, we plan for it to have tougher armor than the Gladius, the Mustang Delta, and the Defender. That's interesting. Its shield generators are presently intended to be similar in performance to those of the Gladius. While the Hawk carries more armor, the Mustang Delta's defenses include a larger store of countermeasures. I'm probably going to bet that the Gladius and the Mustang Delta are probably going to be quicker than the Hawk, so that could be another feature, though of course ships, components, things, all of that could change. A lot of this could be iterated on in the future, but you know, this ship with the amount of guns that it has, I mean, it outguns them, it out armors them. The Defender is a bit of a question mark because that's in for a redesign, and we have not seen the fruits of that labor yet, so that is an unknown. But I would guess that, barring the ability for any of these other ships to run away if they were forced to fight the Hawk, or they were EMP'd by the Hawk and then dragged into a bit of a dogfight, I kind of feel like the Hawk is going to be the top dog out of these three, except the Gladius's maneuverability might give it an edge. It's hard to tell. We'll have to wait and see once this thing is, you know, built out and in the universe. Okay, question 9. What's the heaviest armor a player can wear while operating the Anvil Hawk? Answer. As is standard for most single-seat fighters, this is a flight suit. The player will be able to store a small personal loadout in the ship, the aforementioned gun rack, so they can quickly gear up for FPS action. Oh my god. Okay, look. Buccaneer jokes aside, because obviously everyone remembers the Buccaneer. We're supposed to get smuggling pods, we were supposed to get a gun rack, and we were supposed to be able to carry a little bit of cargo, but as CIG got the look that they wanted, and they found, oh, it's going to be hard to fit all these things in, they just cut them. It doesn't mean that that's going to happen again with the Hawk, but from my point of view, it depends on who ends up actually producing the Hawk. Now, if it's just some random guy at CIG, then chances are, if it's too difficult or too challenging to work all these things in together, then they might get cut. Whereas if you get a guy like, say, Josh Coons developing the Hawk and making it into a flyable ship, chances are you're going to get what you paid for, and you're going to get what the ship is supposed to be. It varies depending on who ends up producing the ship. Now you might say, well, that's not true. That's unbelievable that you would even say that. But think about it. Think about every ship that Josh Coons has ever produced. What's the first thing he does? He goes to the community and he's like, what do you guys think? What are you looking for? What do you need in this ship? What do you think about the look, the feel? What are the features? He proactively goes out to the community and sources their opinions. And then he has the common sense to be able to say, okay, these are the must-haves, these are the would-be nices, and these are the if dreams came true. And he then tries to deliver, and he constantly consults with the community, and he goes, hey, what do you think of this? What about this idea? What about that idea? Oh, I never thought of that. Thanks for supplying those pictures. He's that artist at CIG who's actually like going out there and going, hey, what do you guys think of this? What do you guys think of that? Whereas with other guys, it tends to be more like, and surprise, here it is. Here are the things we took away. He is like one of the guys that if you are an owner of a Hawk, he's the guy you want producing your ship, because he really does care about your opinion. And I don't think that he is the type of artist to say my aesthetic supersedes your function. So if you get a guy like him producing the Hawk, yeah, you can pretty much look at these things and say it's a lock. If someone else gets it, maybe not. All right, question 10. Is the Hawk going to be fast-tracked in development, or is this going to be further down the road for getting in-game? Answer: generally speaking, smaller ships are simply easier to make, and ships without interior spaces are easier still. From a development perspective, the Hawk has fewer obstacles to production than larger ships with traversable interiors, and this is therefore likely to be in-game sooner. Well, they talk about white boxing, and I think it's safe to say that this is something that's going ahead right now. Some people might look at it and say, oh, well, you know, it's just low-hanging fruit. It's easy for them. But the truth is, a lot of the functions that are built into fighters, even, let's say, this one, EMP, guns, all that, it's all defined and all already working to a certain degree in the game already. So all those functions are defined. There are certain ships who don't have functions defined fully yet, like the Starfarer. But the Starfarer moved ahead because it was needed for Squadron 42. But, you know, there are outliers, like we are about to get the Prospector, though mining remains to be seen. We know in the broad strokes how it's going to work, but we have yet to see it actually working. So that's kind of an oddball, but chances are, because this ship is what you might call low-hanging fruit, chances are you're going to see this probably very soon. I would say this thing will probably be flyable by this time next year. That would be my guess. All right, question 11. Which loaner will be available until the Anvil Hawk is flight ready? Answer: the Cutlass Black is selected for the loanership for the selected loanership for the Anvil Hawk. You know, perhaps the Avenger Stalker with its many prisoner holds would be a good choice for this, or perhaps even give them the Avenger Warlock as well. Give them two loaners so they can experiment with EMP gameplay and prisoner transport while they wait for their ship to be flight ready, as both of those are already in game. But then again, that would make sense. All right, question 12. Is the stated 500 meters a second afterburner speed correct? If so, how will the Hawk stop prospective bounties from simply running away? Answer: the Hawk is viewed as an entry-level ship that focuses on being cheap, reliable, and versatile, and may not be able to handle every bounty, or at least may require a little extra tactical prowess to pull it off. As flight balance is an endeavor that will continue throughout the development process, the 200-500 stats should remain as a good comparison point for how the Hawk will perform relative to other ships, as stated on the ship matrix according to the characteristics of the flight model point in time that it was introduced into the ship pipeline. Remember that as we experiment with the overall flight model to provide better game experience over time, so too does ship performance adjust alongside it. Now, of course, we talked about this a little bit on the Piracy Show when we were asking about the relevance of fighters now that you have a ship like the Caterpillar doing 892 meters a second at full afterburner. What good is a ship like the Hawk doing only 500, or a Cutlass? You know, you see in the screenshots, this thing is hunting down a Cutlass. The Cutlass does over 1100 now, and this thing only does 500. How are you supposed to use it as a bounty hunter? Well, I mean, technically what they're saying here, it does hold a lot of truth, because, you know, much like a Hawk, you know, you might be sweeping down on your prey at a moment of vulnerability. Earlier on in the show, we talked about a guy who sent me an email who was saying, you know, I was thinking about using it to make a ship crash on a planet. You know, I still have some broad questions about how that would work and how EMP gameplay is going to shake out, but it was an interesting idea, and perhaps this is one of the ways that you can use the Hawk. Maybe it's not evident right away, but maybe it's best used at a time of vulnerability or to do something unexpected when someone isn't going along at full afterburner. I mean, remember that going along at full afterburner has a hugely detrimental effect on your maneuverability. So there's going to be a lot of times where ships are just chugging around, and if you can get them at a moment of surprise, then you might be able to EMP them and then hold them in place long enough to disable them and affect the capture that you're out there to do. So oftentimes you'll see me being critical of certain things that CIG does. I mean, we just discussed the Buccaneer situation and whatnot, but with this, I kind of agree with where this sits, because even though right up front it doesn't look like a good feature and it looks much more like a detriment, it may be simply because this is such a heavily armored light fighter and you might need to use a little extra, you know, a little extra know-how, a little extra tactical prowess to get the job done. And I'm not opposed to that. You know, I more come into opposition where something like, say, aesthetics trumps basic functionality. That's where you'll often find me at cross purposes with CIG, but in this, I agree. All right, question 13. Is the prisoner stowage in the Aft of the Hawk being designed for just a single seat, or will it be able to hold multiple bounties as the cells in the Avenger Stalker do? Answer: the Hawk's containment pod accommodates one prisoner. Yeah, that, you know, I suppose in a way that's kind of disappointing, but at the same time, I mean, realistically, if you compare the Avenger Stalker and the equipment that you get with the Avenger Stalker versus the Hawk, yeah, the Hawk can only carry one prisoner, but it comes with an EMP and it comes with a crap load of guns. I mean, this thing has got firepower, armor, all of that. I think that even though you may not be able to chain missions, like go out and take like 5 bounties in a system and then go, you know, collect them all up, or 6 or however many cells, I think yeah, 8 actually cells you get in the Stalker, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but overall I think the Hawk puts you in a better position. It gives you better reach into the amount of missions and the complexity or the difficulty of missions that you can complete than the Avenger Stalker does. So even though it does kind of make you have to kind of do them one at a time, I think overall you'll be able to complete much more difficult missions with the Hawk than with the Avenger Stalker. So yeah, I mean, it is kind of a disappointment, but I think overall, I think the Hawk is still going to be able to overcome that and still be a good ship. All right, question 14. This is an anvil ship, but it is still a light fighter. This is a class of ship that relies on speed to survive and win fights. Since it's already stated to be slower than the Gladius, what other points make this ship viable over it, since the Gladius got the S3 buff? Answer: every ship has its purpose. The Hawk is a light fighter with bounty hunting features. There are some missions for which the Hawk is suited that a Gladius isn't. Even considering their different mission profiles, however, the Hawk has an EMP device which will play better in certain situations than a limited loadout of missiles, perhaps especially in bounty hunting. And it also has comparable shielding and better armor protection than the Gladius. Remember too that the benefits of armor protection versus shielding against different types of weapons. Although of course one prefers not to get hit, when you do get hit, sometimes you really want that armor. Sorry, I kind of butchered that one a little bit, but In general, once again here, I agree with what CIG is doing. Now, I know some people are going, twice in a row. Is this even really Minions channel? But yeah, no. See, this goes back to something I said a long time ago. People look at Arena Commander, and they have been so poisoned by Arena Commander and, you know, just the battles in that. They think that everything boils down to a 1v1 in this situation, and how, you know, this ship trumps that ship because it has this, or this ship trumps that ship because it has that. None of which is true. None of which is true. It's all situational. When people say, oh, like this could be good in this situation, and someone goes, no, that's situational. Every situation is situational. You don't know what the circumstances of that combat are going to be. What if the Hawk is being attacked by a Gladius, but all of a sudden the Hawk pilot lures the Gladius into a dense asteroid field where his speed and maneuverability might not be the advantage he hopes for? You know, there are going to be people who say, oh, well, the Gladius automatically, you know, it wins because it's got this S3 gun and it's faster and more maneuverable. But the truth is, like, the Hawk still has 6 guns. If the Hawk has projectile weapons, it might be able to get enough hits on the Gladius that it can degrade its performance, you know, take out its engines, do anything to it that would, you know, hamper the Hawk, you know, the Gladius's performance and allow the Hawk to come out on top. We could sit here and we could think of a million different scenarios in which, you know, a Hawk could trump a Gladius or a Gladius could trump a Hawk. But the truth is, it all depends on the pilots. And if you're a Hawk pilot and you're saying, well, these are the situations where the Gladius could win, but these are the situations where the Hawk could win. So what if you just stick to creating those situations where the Hawk wins? What if your whole process for flying revolves around being in those situations as much as possible? Well, that's where you start to evolve tactics, doctrine, strategy. And that is, you know, where we should be going. So people are kind of using the fishbowl of Arena Commander to try and define how a ship's going to work and a ship's value. They're doing it wrong. You have to look at the situations you can create and then try to create those situations where you are in advantage. Not to digress too much, but recently a member of my guild in World of Warcraft was laughing at me, or laughing sort of 50% at me, 50% with me, because of a certain tactic I like to use in a certain world PvP battle. It's called the Blackrook Hold Rumble, or the whatever. You don't need to know all the specifics, but basically it's an arena where it's a free-for-all. Everyone fights to, you know, get as many kills as possible and complete the objective, and then boom, you win the mission, da-da-da-da-da. And he was saying, because I'm a rogue, he was saying, you know, you are such a joke because you sit out on the edge of the arena and you wait for people to fight, and then whoever wins the fight, you immediately dive in on them, blow your cooldowns, wipe them out, and then you disappear, and then you run and hide again, and you keep doing this over and over and over again until you complete the objective. You know, that's such a dick move. And I said, exactly, because I'm not here to give them what they want. I'm not here to give them a fair fight. I'm here to fight on my terms. I'm here to do things my way. So my tactics evolve around putting myself in a position of advantage as much as possible. And then, you know, I don't ever sit there and think, well, what would be more fair for this guy? F that guy. It's about you. It's about winning. In a situation like Star Citizen, you're here to win. You're not here to die and lose your ship and lose your cargo and fail at a mission. You're here to complete the objectives. You're here to make money. So focus, like if you own a Gladius or if you own a Hawk, focus on the situations where you're at the most advantage, where things are the most advantageous for you. Don't worry about, oh, should I give this guy a fair fight? No. Worry about putting yourself in a position that is best for you. And, you know, don't worry about Arena Commander, because Arena Commander is meaningless. Show me a point in the game where you're going to have a 10-kilometer bubble with all these ships trapped in it, forced to fight to the death. Show me that in Star Citizen. It's never going to exist. So anything that plays out in Arena Commander has very little bearing on what's going to happen in the PU. So don't worry about that. If you have a Hawk, just look at what are the situations where the Hawk is an advantage, and then work to create those situations. So being overly worried about an S3 gun here or an EMP there, that's kind of a waste of time. All right, question 15. What is the in-atmo airspeed velocity of an unladen Hawk? LOL. African or European? In all seriousness, having the prisoner in the holding pod will not noticeably impact the airspeed velocity. Under the latest flight model testing, at 1 atmosphere and neutral conditions, the flight speed should be around 165 meters a second with max safe airspeed around 339 meters per second. So, yeah, I have nothing to add to that. All right. What is this, 16 now? Or 17? Whatever. Okay. Question. Why make a bounty hunter ship with no interior? Answer. Wow. Okay. Traversable interiors in general make a ship considerably larger, something you've had the opportunity to witness in the development histories of some of our other ships. Larger surface area and internal volume can in turn translate into higher mass, see this link, yada yada yada, which quickly run counter to the Hawk's design aim of a light fighter with a small landing footprint. Without an interior, the Hawk can run lighter, cheaper, and be more nimble, instead of supports and reinforcements to shore up against structural weaknesses of large empty spaces relative to the size of the ship. Those materials are not more uniformly dedicated to keeping the components and resource pipes firmly in place, making them more dense. This also benefits the lone wolf nature of the player who only wants to pilot a single-seater bounty hunter ship. Once again, agreeing with CIG here. I mean, if you look at a situation like the Vanguard, it's pretty easy to see how having that open space in the middle of it for the pod, the life pod, and all of that, it really degraded the ship. It made the ship a lot bigger than it needed to be, and I mean, really, does it really bring anything to the gameplay? Oh, but now I have a fun social space, and I can move around in it, and I can interact with the microwave and the shower and the toilet and la-di-da. For some people, that's an important thing. That's something that they want, but not every ship has to have it. And so, if you want a ship with a bed and an open space and all these things, the Avenger Stalker's right there. And the Avenger Stalker is actually cheaper and it carries more prisoners. Whereas if you're looking for more of a fighter, a tighter, compact design that's more focused on combat than social spaces and things like that, then this is the ship for you. Not every ship has to fit everyone's aesthetic. That's why oftentimes you'll hear me say, the aesthetics of it are what they are. I'm more worried about functionality. And in that, the Hawk is a success. It may not be up to your aesthetic standards, but in the end, it delivers on what it is supposed to be. And finally, what are the correct dimensions for the Hawk? The current stats are 17 meters long, 22 meters wide, 6.5 meters tall. It's important to note that the ship is in white box, so it's in production. And these dimensions may change as it moves through the production pipeline. So yeah, it looks like they're working on it right now. Those are your dimensions. So about a year, I would say, before you're flying this ship. Cool to know if you're still on the fence about picking one up. I think they're still up for a couple more days. Anyways, that has been the show for today. It's obviously going to take a while to render this one and get it uploaded, but hopefully it should be up soon. Tomorrow, we will do ship updates. I'll try to squeeze in the Hammerhead Q&A as well, though obviously these videos take a little bit longer to get through and produce, but I'll try to get you guys a twofer for tomorrow with ship updates and the Hammerhead Q&A. I'll try to keep them separate because obviously that video is going to be a long one as well. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.